It's time for ACC Central, presented by Just Means Less.
I drive into right. It's enough. It's back. And it's gone for the cycle. It's a walk-off grand slam. Florida State wins it.
Hosted by Monty Taylor.
In the air, center field. Moore is under it. And on to Omaha for the Cardinals.
Micah Butel.
Line ball driven into left field. Spin. Does he do it? He does. A walk-off homer by Ken Schmidt.
And Nick Dioli.
Gets it down. Here comes Mac. He is safe. And Boston College wins.
Fastball off the plate for 2 balls, 2 strikes. Monty just got landed on.
There are 2 pigeons roosting right above me, and my can of Pepsi.
Smacked into right field. It'll
Welcome back, college baseball fans, to another episode of ACC Central. I'm Monty Taylor. Joining me is Micah Butel and Nick Dioli as we talk about the top-ranked ACC team. So far, a consensus top 5 team. Baseball America, Perfect Game, and D1 have all put them in the top 5.
But they won't host.
Huh?
They won't host.
Oh, they won't host. Oh, all right. This is the defending regular season champions for the ACC, and it looks like they've just gotten better. What a season they gave us last year. One of those memories came up in the pregame show, or the pregame intro. I'm not talking about Ken Schmidt's walk-off home run. I'm talking about the Pigeons. That was a Georgia Tech game in the ACC championship against Cal, in which I was bombed by Pigeons after Drew Burris and Kyle O'Deese hit some bombs against Cal.
I'll never forget you coming back inside, and you're like, Nick, you'll never believe what just happened. I just got shat on.
This is a family-friendly show.
Use the right word.
Oh. So Micah's former favorite team before he left them, the Yellow Jackets.
I left them, or you just walked in and stole them? Because you just walked in and were like, oh, Micah really enjoyed Georgia Tech. I'm going to go cover them all the time because he doesn't live anywhere near them anymore. So I'm just going to walk in and steal his girl because she's lonely. That's
I don't know. I think you were trying to 2-time Tech with Louisville.
I'm sorry. Who went to their who
Your
went
rebound
to
was Louisville, and they made Omaha.
Who went to their regional? Who's gone to back-to-back regionals for Georgia Tech?
You didn't go for Georgia Tech the second time. You went for Ole Miss and Murray State.
I did. You're right. You're so right. That's why I was at the ballpark at 10 a.m. Yeah, you're so right, Monty. I wanted to be in the ballpark 10 a.m. so bad for Georgia Tech in Western Kentucky.
Micah, I don't know if you know this, but 10 a.m. that's peanuts, man. Nick and I have been at the ballpark.
Time zone, kid.
Nick and I have been at the ballpark at like 7 a.m., 8 a.m. until 3 a.m. Anyway, let's take a look at the departures here. They don't lose a ton. They lose one starter plus their team captain basically in John Giesler. They do lose some quality arms in Brady Jones and Jalen Payton. The great thing about those guys were nowhere near a pro contract, and both of them have pro contracts now. That's a testament to Matt Taylor. And then there's some transfers there. Not a huge ton of losses, just a bunch of the freshman arms. I think Connor Schaus is going to be really good. I mean, I think these guys are going to be really good pitchers elsewhere. I think Ryan Johnson at Illinois is going to be great. Cole Royer had a nasty slider. Connor Ciccoli obviously was a freshman all-ACC. He's in South Carolina now. These guys are all going to be good, but I don't think Georgia Tech's able to withstand some of these losses. Who do you think they're going to miss the most, Nick?
I think for vibes, they're going to miss Geisler. But, I mean, overall, I think they're going to miss Lodis a lot. Now, we will talk about who will be replacing Lodis in a second, which, I mean, is going to be great. But, yeah, I mean, keeping up with Kyle Lodis last year was just so much fun, especially, like, pretty much midway through with him and Alex going back and forth with homers. When I went to the Georgia Tech Stanford game, Kyle was up on deck, and I was like, "Hey, Kyle, Alex just hit a home run, so now it's your turn." I think they'll miss Kyle a lot. He was, kind of like the glue guy almost for that Tech team.
Yeah, Kyle's oblique was injured at some point during that Stanford series.
Yeah.
I must blame you, Nick, for that because that's kind of what kind of took his ACC Player of the Year candidacy and tanked it a bit.
No. He had himself a day. The game I went to, I think he went 2 for 4 with 2 doubles.
All right, Micah. Is there anybody you want to talk about? I mean, the Goose is loose. We got to talk about Goose. Great ACC guy, but is there anyone you want to talk about?
I mean, I think you're going to miss some of these arms. I mean, obviously, it wasn't like Georgia Tech's pitching staff was the best in the ACC last year, but like Riley Stanford really stepped up in key spots last year. Brady Jones as well. I think you've got, again, you're going to miss just having some of that depth pieces that I think would have been really huge. Again, I think the staff this year might be better or at least as good as last year. But, obviously to lose some depth pieces, again, especially the way Riley Stanford stepped up down the stretch, I think that's a tough one to necessarily lose. I mean, obviously if you're, Kyle Lodis and John Geisler are going to be like the big names there. But I think you do got to give some love to those pitchers that are no longer in the program that, went on to, I believe Riley Stanford's playing pro ball, right? And I'm not.
Yep. He got drafted by the Rays.
Yeah. So, obviously got drafted and are on to bigger and better pastures.
Yeah, I think the Rays grabbed both Brady and Stanford. Peyton's got a contract with Atlanta, and Kyle is with Chicago White Sox. Got to play in Winston-Salem. Did Nick go see him? Probably not.
He's not up in Winston yet.
Taking a look at some of the key newcomers here. They got some impact guys. Jaron Avincula, obviously first team All ACC, or at least second team All ACC. I can't remember which one it was, but he was obviously All ACC. He's coming in, taking that number 2. Ryan Zuckerman, who had 30 extra base hits at Pitt. He's a personal favorite of mine, coming in and playing third base. Cade Brown, a former Georgia Player of the Year. Another one of those Georgia transfers that leave after their first year. Dylan Lloyd, Justin Shattuck, those are game-changing arms. Then you've got some game-changing recruit arms in Charlie Wilcox and Cooper Underwood. Cooper Underwood, both those guys turned down a lot of money to go to Georgia Tech. Cooper Underwood was drafted in the 12th round. And then you've got some other freshmen in there. I don't think we're going to see a ton of Dom Stevenson and Coleman Lewis, but they are guys to look for the future. Is there anybody that stands out that you're really excited about, Micah?
Dylan Loy from Tennessee is, I think, one that I'm really pumped for. I got to see him a lot, both, he was in Kingsport the summers that I was out there. And, again, a respected SEC arm transferring over is always big. I mean, Georgia Tech, again, could always use more help, right, in their pitching staff, and picking up an arm like that is someone, I think you got to be excited about. Justin Shattuck, too, from Rutgers is another big one. I mean, again, we can be excited about our ACC boys, at least staying in the ACC and leaving their, their respective programs with Jaron and Ryan Zuckerman. But, yeah, I think Dylan Loy for me is one. If Georgia Tech does get to Omaha, you're going to have to get a really good Dylan Loy, and I think you can. I'm very high on what his ceiling can be at Georgia Tech.
Yeah, I'm really glad Avincula and Zuckerman stayed in conference. Love both those guys. I've gotten to interview them a couple times over the years, and then I got to interview them together in the fall. A lot of fun. But Nick, what about you?
For me, it's Ryan Zuckerman. Mainly because he felt like the Mike Trout of the ACC, because he was so good for Pitt, but Pitt just doesn't go anywhere. They have missed the NCAA tournament multiple times. It's like he's freed almost. And I know he loved his time at Pitt. I mean, we talked to him a little bit, Monty, at the ACC tournament. But I'm so excited to see what he will do with a really, really good potential Omaha roster around him. I think the competition he's going to go up against obviously is going to be the same, but I think if he wasn't already so good, I think he's just going to get even better just to be surrounded by a stud lineup, great pitchers, a great coaching staff, and that there's actually like potential for him to, be on the national scene and make a NCAA tournament and who knows, make an Omaha run. So I'm just kind of excited to see how well Ryan Zuckerman will just do with a great team around him.
Yeah, Nick, thanks for bringing up that coaching staff because somehow I forgot to mention the James Ramsey of it all. Under the key departures, Danny Hall, obviously James Ramsey assumes the role. Basically, the entire staff stays, and then they bring in Scott Strickland, the former Georgia coach. He was on staff, but now he's full time. So mostly staying in there, but they also lock up James Ramsey, who's been one of the best hitting coaches in the country the last couple of years. But before we get into this vaunted lineup, let's talk about this pitching staff. And we know the pitching narrative with Georgia Tech, right? I want to throw out there the reason they were able to win a regular season title last year is they were able to be the third best ACC staff in terms of ERA last year in the conference. And a big part of that was when they solidified that. But Tate McKee is the guy. I will say I've spoken to Matt Taylor recently. He's not the only guarantee we have in terms of the rotation is Tate McKee is going to be starting Friday nights. Other than that, it's going to depend on what guys are doing here in this preseason. Mason Patel you probably can't leave him out. You probably can't leave him in that relief role, so he'll probably get the nod there. I'm currently projecting those three, but I'm also hearing a lot of buzz about Adam McKelvey, who has had a monster summer and a monster fall and is a stud. And then Justin Shattuck, the Rutgers transfer, is another guy that's getting an opportunity to start, but I really like how his stuff plays at the back end. And honestly, even Caden Spivey, who I have on the right side there, is a starting option, as is Charlie Wilcox, one of the freshman arms. But this staff brings back basically everybody except, Payton, Stanford, Jones, and Swigert, brings back a lot of their innings.
I guess I'll go. I was kind of we've been flowing with Nick going first on this show, so Nick's just not learning his role here in this game. He's not stepping
I didn't give you a prompt or anything.
Nick, you got to lock in, kid. No, I'm just kidding. But no, I mean this is a staff that you've got a bunch of proven stuff with Tate McKee and Mason Patel. Again, Dylan Loy is someone you should be really high on. Justin Shattuck brings a lot of potential as well. Like we talked about, the newcomers coming over from Rutgers. His numbers weren't necessarily great, but his stuff is pretty nasty if they can kind of, get that kind of down. He walked a lot of guys, if I'm not mistaken, right? Monty, that was one of his big kryptonites, was he had like 30-some walks.
He was a starter at Rutgers behind the kid Mac, who transferred to. I think actually he might have been the Friday night guy, and Mac might have been the Saturday guy. Mac's at Tennessee.
Yeah, but his walk ratio or his walks were up a little high, but I mean he also strikes out a decent amount of guys too. So again, if he can kind of pound the zone and control his stuff, I think you got a really dangerous option too. Whether it's on a midweek or maybe works his way into that Sunday role, or again he's a long reliever if you need it. I mean there's a lot of options that this staff has to kind of go to. And again, the bullpen looks like it's honestly, I'll say it, probably better than last year, especially if everyone that's returning takes another step forward.
By the way, the guy that is taking the number 21 this season is on the screen. John Giesler wore it last year. Ben King wore it the year before. Who do you think the player that who earned it? Dr. Ben King, yes. It's the smartest guy on the roster, Carson Ballard. So who is an underrated reliever last year for them. But yeah, I'm really excited. I went and saw a bunch of these arms in the fall. Surprisingly enough, Micah, the guy who, I saw, I think 14 or 15 innings, and I was blown away by this pitching staff. It was, I saw Mason Patel, who was Mason Patel. Adam McKelvey and Jackson Blakely just completely blew me away. Charlie Wilcox was absolutely sensational. The only guy that kind of struggled was Dylan Loy, who is somebody who you don't have to worry about in the fall, really. Like, you're not going to get concerned over that. So I thought that was absolutely incredible from what I saw. What I saw from Blakely and McKelvey, two guys who didn't pitch a ton last year. I think they have like 8 combined innings or something, if that. those are guys that could have huge sophomore years and really be X factors on this staff. But Justin Shattuck is approaching like 99, 98, 99 at the back end. Nasty fastball. I know that they're giving him a shot in the rotation, but I just really want to see him in that closing role because I think that kind of stuff plays up and could potentially, be one of the best arms in relief in the conference. And don't forget about Charlie Wilcox, who's going to be a key guy. He could be that midweek guy as a freshman. They like doing that with Tricoli last year. Wilcox is a weekend rotation future kind of guy, as is Cooper Underwood. Wilcox is a little bit farther along. But, Nick, talk to me about what you see from this staff.
Can I take a shot here? Can I take my shot?
Sure.
I'm going to take a shot right now. Mason Patel, ACC Pitcher of the Year.
Oh. I love it. By the way, PG left him off their All-Americans list. I guess they figured 4 was enough for Georgia Tech, but they're also a prospect first thing, and Mason Patel's not necessarily a prospect at this point. 6th year in college. But, yeah, Nick, go ahead. Continue.
Well, I just fell in love with this kid last year. If you guys remember, my hot take last year was the ACC pitcher of the year would be a relief pitcher. And for a hot second, it almost looked like it because Mason Patel was.
And Lucas Malstead was great too.
And he was great too. He was throwing Ched. His ERA was very low. He had the most appearances by any reliever, I think, last year in the ACC. Yeah, I'm going to take my shot and say that this kid, he was phenomenal. He was the best guy out of the bullpen. I think he started a couple midweeks, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that. But, yeah, I think this kid is going to be really, really good for Georgia Tech. I think he's going to have that leadership role, obviously. Being one of the older guys, has a lot of experience, a little bit of miles on that arm. Yeah, that's my shot.
Love that. Here's a look at what I projected. We've got Tate McKee there. Mr. Tate McKee, who, by the way, in his last 2 starts, one of those with the flu in first in Durham and then in Oxford, in which Micah was up at 10 a.m. as he needed to tell us for some reason. Tate McKee had went 13.2 innings of three earned runs total and struck out 16 batters. He was absolutely fantastic. Again, one of those games with the flu. Unfortunately, Mason Patel and Brady Jones didn't quite get off to what they wanted to against Murray State. I think Murray State ambushed Brady Jones. And then for whatever reason, Mason Patel's changeup didn't quite have what it needed to have. And Murray State took advantage. And then from there, it was just fall apart. But does this pitching staff feel like it's worth the hype that Georgia Tech is getting in terms of top 5?
Yes.
Micah?
Yes. I mean, it's hard to beat the stereotype when, unfortunately, right, the postseason was what it was. Yeah. Like, let's be real. They didn't get eliminated in the postseason because of their inability to hit. Like, the bats went quiet. I mean, they gave up, double-digit runs to both Ole Miss and Mississippi State in their 2 losses in the regional. So, I remember, like, when they played Murray State in that 1-0 game, the way Georgia Tech jumped on them early, I thought it was over. I was like, Georgia Tech's going to be sitting 2-0 in Oxford, feeling real good about themselves right now. And kudos to Murray State for hitting them. But, I mean, that was kind of a little bit of a collapse in a sense from what that staff had been all season long. Yeah. So, it's hard to beat those. But, I mean, they have the names. They have the guys. I mean, it's hard because you never want to say anything negative or make it sound negative about what Danny Hall was. Because Danny Hall is a legendary coach, one of the best we've ever had. The best coach in Georgia Tech history, right? But sometimes you do need a change. Sometimes you just need a fresh kind of perspective to things. You kind of have to maybe wash away some of the stuff that maybe held you back. So, and again, you have the entire staff returning from last year. I mean, this is a team that, again, and the additions that, again, Dylan Loy, if that is your Sunday starter, he would have been a Sunday, maybe even Saturday guy for Tennessee this year. So we're talking about now, they didn't pick up a scrappy, not so relevant SEC arm that was trying to find a new home. They got a legitimate dude that just, when Tony Vitello left, kind of was. I don't know if he left before or after Tony. He may have left before.
I think before.
but I knew, like, again, he was looking for his new chance and got his chance. And I mean, I think you have reasons to believe that this staff is going to probably be top 5 ACC again. I mean, we did Florida State yesterday. I mean, I have more confidence in what I see with Georgia Tech right now than I do with Florida State.
Yeah, and what's interesting is what Matt Taylor has done. This is going to be his 3rd season. What he's done in 2 seasons, I don't think is being taken into account with this narrative. They're still remembering these Georgia Tech teams from the 2021 team or 2022 team, with this elite offense, but then doesn't quite have these pitchers doing what they need to do. But Nick, you think this is a staff that's good enough to get them to Omaha?
Yeah, I think so. I think what we've seen in the trend of Georgia Tech pitching is, they would blow games a lot a few years ago. Last year, I think they took a monumental step. They kept them in a lot of games, but I think it sputtered in the end, like Micah had mentioned in the regional in Oxford. And you could kind of tell a little bit towards the end of the season. But they were in a lot of great games where the bullpen held up. And I think it's only going to get better. I mean, I love the rotation. And I love what they brought in for the bullpen. I think this is definitely a team or a staff that I can see make a run in Omaha and beyond. So we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to see it. Let's get on to this lineup. This what might be the best lineup in the country. Starting behind the dish, you've got 2 potential starters in the lineup, with Drew Rogers potentially being a DH, but Vaughn Lackey, the top-rated draft prospect at catcher, underrated no more. Everybody knows about Vaughn Lackey now. He's getting all the love. At first base, Mr. Kent Schmidt, the ACC batting champion from last season. He snuck in at the very end with his Oxford regional to suddenly overtake Alex Lodis for that batting title at the end of the year. Jaron Advincula at second base, the Australian backing him up, Will Baker. Carson Kirsch shifting over to shortstop, probably the most underrated player on the squad. You've got Ryan Zuckerman at third. Caleb Daniel, Drew Burris, and reigning ACC Freshman of the Year, Alex Hernandez. Just a quick note here, Drew Rogers, Will Baker, Alex Hernandez, all draft-eligible sophomores. What are our thoughts on this offense? Who wants to start, and who do you want to highlight first?
Is this the LA Dodgers?
By the way, I will say Ryan Zuckerman in the fall, I told you he had 30 extra base hits, right? He was the bat, with Luke Cantwell leading off, the bat in the middle of the order for Pitt to watch out for, right? He batted 7th in the fall.
That'll play.
This is the LA Dodgers in college baseball. Like they picked up Ryan Zuckerman, who is like anybody's like 3 to 5 hole hitter, but he's number 7 for Georgia Tech. That's like, look at the Dodgers lineup, which I recently just saw not too long ago. And it's like, this guy is the 7-hole hitter for the LA Dodgers. This is the Dodgers that we're seeing right now.
Yeah, by the way, Zuckerman, he had 86 strikeouts last year, but from what I understand, his swing and miss significantly down. He way down, and his defense fantastic at third base. Those were 2 things he really wanted to work on in the fall, and he did that. Hopefully it carries over, and if it does, his draft stock is gonna shoot up because he has a major league frame. But Micah, talk to me about your boy at shortstop.
I was gonna say I want to make sure we have the same boy. Yeah, Carson Kirsch. I mean,
I had it right though?
Yes, you nailed it. That is. I'm so glad that he's going to get, obviously, his everyday shortstop position. I think, again, like you said, might be the most underrated, definitely the most underrated player in this lineup. One of the more underrated players in the entire conference. I mean, he's continued to take a step forward. His development. I got to see him going from freshman to sophomore year in the summer in the Appy League, and then obviously, he took a step forward last season. Had a pretty decent year, right? I mean, obviously, there's still room to improve, but hit 313 in 60 games. So not a bad season either. So
and a doubles machine.
Correct. So, I mean, again, he's going to provide, extra base hits. He's very sound defensively. I don't think you're taking too much of a step back, on either side of the ball with him. And again, like Monty, when I looked at this, I looked at when we do our all-star drafts, right? I always try to grab players from every team that I get, stuck with per se. And I'm like, man, I'm looking at my Cal Bear pick. I'm looking at my Pitt pick. Oh man, they're all on the same team now. So now I have to diversify even more. Like just absolute studs. Like Georgia Tech did an incredible job of filling the holes they needed to with transfers. Again, really talented freshman class that can do a lot of damage for them as well. So yeah, I mean, just a lot to be excited about.
Yeah, I mean, I remember Kent Schmidt missed 20 games and still put up full season stats, over there at first base. This is just exciting. And Carson Curse is somebody, if he's added power to his game, which, he's hitting the ball harder from what I understand. I mean, it's big. And Parker Brocious is a guy who's going to be coming off the bench and probably be in a pinch running role late in there. I mean, you've got 13 guys deep. Tyler Nice is somebody who started the year last year and left, and now he's a backup there. I mean, Will Baker is a guy who started coming on really late and was big. I mean, this is just disgusting. And Drew Burress is the best player in college baseball. He's going to be a Golden Spikes Award finalist. The question is whether if he can win it. Obviously his main competition is going to be Roch Tulowski over at UCLA. But I mean, just unbelievable lineup here. Let's take a look at the potential batting order there. Advincula, Burris, Schmidt, Hernandez, Lackey, Daniel, Zuckerman batting 7th, Curse 8th, and Rogers 9th.
Having 20 doubles as your 8-hole hitter is insane.
And remember, Drew Rogers down the stretch was fantastic, and he had, I think, most of his extra base hits came down the stretch at the end of the season. So, I mean, that's just not fair. I mean, you got Will Baker, who also, on your bench, Cade Brown, a high guy. I mean, this is just, you got, again, 13 deep, and then you've got potentially the catcher of the future in Dominique Stevenson as well, the freshman who we probably won't see much of. But
I just did rough math, Monty. I'm pretty sure we have 190 plus extra base hits in that lineup.
Yeah, it's they led the country in doubles last year, and that's one of the nice things about Georgia Tech is, yes, they hit the home run, but they rely more on the double.
And you added 2 guys that combined for 33 doubles with Zuckerman and Nicholas. Yeah. So, good luck. Good luck, everybody else. Good luck.
Having your catcher at the 5-hole who leads the team in stolen bases at the 5-hole is crazy.
By the way,
that doesn't make any sense.
And Jared can run too.
Yep. By the way,
that's right. Like you put Jaron at leadoff, but it's like Von Lackey is batting 5th, and he leads the team in stolen bases.
And he batted 5th or 6th all last year. Like that's where he stole bases from.
That's crazy to me. If Von Lackey can add, it's really hard. Like no one can be like Cal Raleigh, but if he can add some power, like if he approaches double-digit home runs, and he can steal, and he can throw you out. Oh my God, this line!
Remember one of his home runs, by the way, was inside the park, which he then did in Japan as well. But something to note about Von Lackey, I believe Ramsey has already said he's going to try and get him in at 8 positions.
Would
in one game
kill to see that.
So trying to replicate the Buster Posey.
Can he pitch?
You might as well.
Can that be 9?
I can't remember if it was 8 or 9.
Just for a third of an inning. I mean, if he could throw it from home to second, getting somebody out, he could do a third of an inning.
One of my favorite moments last year was they were at Virginia Tech to start play, and they were still getting Drew Rogers in for a little bit before he had a little bit of a slump, and it was Vaughn for a while at catcher, but they moved Vaughn over to third base. Remember, they were doing that a little bit on Saturdays where Vaughn would move to third, and I don't think Virginia Tech knew that, and they were like, "What the hell? Your catcher can just make these diving plays at third base?" Like Vaughn was, yeah, and it was I remember Virginia Tech was like, "That's just not fair." But yeah, I mean this. Let's talk really quick before we get into, the schedule, but expectations. We were pretty excited about UVA last year, who had a pretty dominant lineup, and they didn't do it. One of the things I'll say when I've talked to them, they they love this. They wanted these expectations. They felt like they got disrespected a bit last year, so they're enjoying this. And for Drew Burress, he was made for these kind of things. He's got high expectations. But do you think you guys worried about the rat poison and the expectations, Micah?
No, I don't think so at all. Because I mean, obviously, we know it's one of the teams I think of all the ones we get to cover that we've gotten the most access to. So we also know these kids a lot more and staff than so maybe some of the other teams we talk about. But also the biggest thing I think is there is still a ton of narrative. I mean, I'm gonna shout out our NCAA insiders friend who again affiliate of College Baseball Central as well, Quentin Mills, who is literally talking about how overrated Georgia Tech is, and that's literally been his entire timeline since every poll has come out. And like, Quinn, I understand, like, it's fun to have clickbaity stuff, but shut up, man. Like, what are you doing? You sound stupid. Like, you're acting like Georgia Tech's not good. He's like, oh, well, they can't pitch. Again, 4th best ERA in the ACC. Oh, well, they didn't do it in the regionals. Buddy, Tennessee had one of the best rotations and staffs in the country 3 years ago. Remember how that played out for them? They didn't get to Omaha either. Things happen.
They're the best team I've ever seen.
Like, did you watch that regional?
Like,
Nobody.
And again, like at the end of the day, like I understand pitching is what's going to win you a national title. Like, we've seen it over and over again. These high potent offenses, if they don't get some sort of pitching, you know, at the end of the day, that is what ends up winning a national title 9 times out of 10. But for goodness sakes, man, nobody's picking Georgia Tech. It wasn't like Georgia Tech's preseason #1 to win the national title. They're just preseason to get to Omaha by everybody. And there is no reason to believe that this team is not going to be probably a top 8 team that is going to host a regional, host a super. And obviously, the joke is they're not allowed to host. So maybe they won't host a regional. They'll have to play it like Turner Field or something. Yeah, I know. Turner Field doesn't exist. That's the joke. You know, but, you know, I know. That wasn't a shout at you, Monty. That was a shout out to anyone who's like, wait, Turner Field doesn't exist.
I just love that you're having a conversation with yourself over there.
Technically, it still does exist.
Georgia State football stadium.
Georgia State football, baby.
But
right,
anyways, like, I mean, this is a team that is going to hit. I don't think there. And again, all you have to do is just pull up last year's regional. Like, just put last year's regional. Like, if they ever need a humbling, again, most of these guys were here. Remind them what happened last year in Oxford, where you are. I mean, it felt like you were about to go up 2-0 in that regional. And again, you're set up pretty well to where, I mean, Georgia Tech would have hosted Duke, I believe, in the Super.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
So they would have hosted. You would have hosted a Super regional, and who knows how that plays out. But you feel pretty good. That you want to believe that you'd find a way to win that, and you're in Omaha. And instead, you obviously run into the Cinderella story, and the bullpen collapses, and things happen, right? So, yeah, I'm not worried about the rat poison. You know,
I mean, there's
plenty of other things that they can point to be like reminder, like a humbling reminder.
They make it to Omaha, I look like a freaking genius. Nick,
why do you look like a genius?
Because I called them to Omaha in the fall.
So did I.
No, you didn't. Pull up the tapes. Nick.
I called it after Omaha ended.
I don't think you did.
Yeah, I'm not buying the rat poison. Look, the difference between Virginia last year and Georgia Tech this year is that Virginia had been there, done that, right? Like, they had they always have expectations. So yeah, 1 year Virginia just doesn't meet the expectations. Were we surprised? Yeah. But like, we're used to Virginia getting to Omaha. We're not used to Georgia Tech, like, you know, making these runs, and they bring everybody back. We know what these guys are capable of. You know, it's not like they can't hit. They can hit. That's the one thing about Georgia Tech baseball. Even you can go back 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, they can hit. That team's always been able to hit. I think the pitching has improved again. Yeah, I'm not buying the Virginia rat poison from last year with these guys. I think it's totally different.
All right, let's talk schedule here. The way the graphic is a little bit funky, so we don't see the non-conference, but I will say that the non-conference, you know, they've got their normal teams on there. It's going to be, you know, 2 at Auburn, or 1 at Auburn, 1 at home versus Auburn. They're going to play Georgia in a midweek at Truist. Is Atlanta now Truist? Yeah. It throws me off because the Charlotte AAA stadium is also Truist. So that's what throws me off. But you know, I just want to shout out UGA. They dropped out of the Jacks College Classic because they were afraid of Notre Dame. They did not schedule Clemson for a midweek because they were afraid of Clemson, and they will not schedule a 3-game series with Georgia Tech because they are scared.
Yes.
Which makes no sense considering their track record against Georgia Tech recently. So you would think they wouldn't be scared, but I guess they see how good Georgia Tech is now, and they're like, we're going to stick to this 1-game neutral site game.
And I'm sure, and I don't mean this is going to be terrible, but I'm sure they're going to win it, and they're going to be like, look how much better we are than Georgia Tech because we won a neutral site midweek.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yep. And they're going to bark at Micah.
What'd you say?
They're going to bark at Micah.
Yeah, that was wild. I'll never forget that. I forgot. That's Warzone triggered.
When you started it earlier, when you brought up the regional, that's my first thing I thought of. But their schedule a little bit more difficult this year. We got that Clemson one now. Remember, for Clemson, that is Clemson's opening ACC game, opening ACC series for Georgia Tech. That'll be their second. They've got NC State at home. If I recall correctly, NC State went down there a couple of years ago and got swept. That was when we were really confused about this Georgia Tech team because it was the same Georgia Tech team that got swept by BC at home. They go to California. They got Florida State. We mentioned yesterday about the Lodi Bowl, 1 year off. Thanks a lot, ACC. At North Carolina, that's a tough one. Versus Wake Forest, versus Duke. At Boston College, which we'll know we don't know what Boston College is. They're going to be a tough team to beat regardless on the road. So it's going to be interesting. Micah, what is your analysis on this schedule?
I mean, it's a pretty favorable schedule. I mean, you don't really have too many, you don't have, we'll preview some teams in the next couple of days. And we talked about one with Florida State, right? That has an opening weekend of some sort. Like, when we talk Miami, they have Florida, for a whole weekend, right? Or obviously Louisville goes to Arlington, Florida State goes to Arlington. You don't have that with Georgia Tech. Northwestern's a middle of the pack Big Ten team. Stony Brook's a good CAA team, but no means world beater. Obviously Bowling Green, top half of the MAC, but that's not saying a whole lot, right? And then again, your home, the schedule kind of plays out pretty well in ACC play. I mean, if you're going to tell me your road weekends are going to be Pitt, Cal, Boston College, those are some pretty good ones to get on the road. And then again, Florida State at home, Wake at home. Those are nice.
You know what I don't love?
What's that?
Xavier on exam weekend.
Yeah. That one's I didn't think about that being exam weekend, Monty. I just processed that as the break in. Yeah, that's a good point.
That's a tricky one.
I would prefer an easier opponent there than Xavier, but
but I mean, in a way though,
that's true. It won't hurt your RPI as much if you drop.
It's not going to hurt your RPI that much, and it's going to really. I mean, it's really going to play well for Georgia Tech if you win that. Because if you win that weekend, again, that is their premier non-conference opponent. I mean, obviously, they play Georgia once, they play Auburn in the midweek twice. But I would argue the weekend against Xavier will be your biggest proof of pudding kind of piece. Because again, it's not the midweek. Xavier, again, a team I think that's going to either at the bare minimum be contending for the NCAA tournament out of the Big East. So yeah, that's going to be a really tough one. And again, it's kind of sandwiched in there pretty good too with Wake and Duke, two teams that, depending on where they're at that point in the season, I think, right, if we're going to talk about Duke, playing Duke later in the year might be worse than playing them earlier in the year because I want to think that's going to be a program of development. So they're going to take a step forward as the season continues. And then obviously Wake Forest is a team that, I'm a little bit lower on, but I'm always a little bit low on. They're going to be out trying to prove a statement. And again, Georgia Tech's going to have that target on their back. They haven't had that before. That's going to be something I think it's going to be interesting to see how they handle that because when they go to Clemson, normally it's can Georgia Tech upset Clemson? It kind of feels like Georgia Tech will be the favorite in every ACC weekend this year. Maybe at North Carolina might be the only one that I might say because of the equality of those, how good North Carolina is, but you're favored in pretty much every weekend this season. And that's different for Georgia Tech. So, it'll be interesting to see how they handle that.
Yeah, absolutely. Nick, what are your thoughts on the schedule before we talk about our predictions?
Yeah, obviously it's a lot harder. And I think the narrative last year was Georgia Tech's great, but they didn't play anybody. They played the bottom half of the ACC mostly. Anybody with, postseason expectations, they lost to, aka Clemson.
They took
So when I look at this schedule, bang, right there. West Virginia, at Clemson, at Auburn. Those are all 3 regional teams.
You just say West Virginia?
Oh, I'm
West
sorry.
Virginia.
That says West Georgia. I got it.
I was like-
that said
like,
West Virginia.
that would be the premier weekend if we were.
That would be insane. Okay, never mind. But
If we were
regardless,
talking.
regardless, you're still playing at Clemson and at Auburn in the middle of March, and if you can win that series and beat Auburn, I think that narrative last year kind of goes out the window, and you're kind of looking at these guys can compete with the top of the ACC, and they're for real. Because again, NC State's going to be tough. Florida State's going to be tough. Wake's going to be tough. Carolina. So they have the roster to do it. I think, like Micah said, on paper, they should be favored in most of these ACC series. But hey, that's what was hanging last year. They were like the A&M football this year. A&M didn't play anybody in the top half of the SEC. And when they did, they lost. That's exactly what happened to them last year. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun watching this team and seeing how they handle these expectations and the target on their back, because they want it. We know they want it. They've wanted that. They've got it. Now it's time to see how they deliver. Let's talk about where we think it's going to happen. I said it last year, and I ended up going all in on last year, but I said that Drew Burress is going to get to Omaha before he leaves. So now it's now or never. I'm picking them to go to Omaha. I think that's obviously their ceiling. I think their floor is also very high. I think they're a tournament team regardless. It's just where they end up with that. But I think they're going to go to Omaha. They're definitely one of my. I've got 2 for sure locks for ACC on Omaha, and then it's trying to figure out. It rotates with the other ones that I convinced myself of, and Georgia Tech's one of those locks. Micah?
Yeah, they're going to be in Omaha, Monty. I think that this is a team that just, they kind of give me the Wake Forest of, was it 23?
23.
Yeah, 23. Where, obviously the starting pitching for Wake was, I think, a little bit better, right, in 23. But I think this lineup for Georgia Tech is better than what Wake had in 23. Yeah. So, it kind of gives me that similar type of vibe where it was like, there's no real proof of concept, right? Like this is a pro, like Wake Forest, right? We got bounced in the super regionals the year before, or the regionals the year before. There was kind of like that. Are they really as good as everyone's saying? Yes, they really were as good as everyone was saying. And I think Georgia Tech could be very similar to that. Like, again, if Georgia Tech takes care of business early in the night, like looking at their schedule, Monty, they could realistically start the season 19-1, 20-1. Like, realistically very plausible. Like I knew the exact math, but before they get to that conference series with, was it Clemson was the second weekend of it? Clemson?
Yes.
Yeah. So like you could again, if you sweep Virginia Tech to open up ACC play and you're sitting there, again, 19-1, 20-0, kind of that ballpark, like it's a very realistic chance you're the number 1 team in the country when you head to Clemson. And again, that's something that I think there's a better chance of that than they're unranked when they go to Clemson. So this is a very talented group, and again, like the leadership on this team, I don't know if enough people are talking about that. Like, yes, they're talented, but we've seen it. Like Drew Burress was a leader his freshman year. He is the definition of like put your head down and go to work. Same thing with Carson Kurse. Same thing with. Everybody on this team, like Alex Hernandez is a great example. Like he just stepped in and just continued to build the culture. Vaughn Lackey is one of those kids too. There's just there's so many positives with this team. And again, Jalen Ramsey bringing a more, or Jalen Ramsey, geez. Wow, we're in football brain now. That was a whoopsie. You guys know what I meant. But Coach Ramsey is going to bring in, this James Ramsey, of course, for those that want to make sure I know his name. He's going to make sure that this program is going to continue to have fun. And like you've been around them, Monty, Nick, you've been around them too. Like we've all been around them. They have fun. It is very similar again to that Wake Forest 2023 team that like they're goofy as heck. They love each other. And like, it never felt like anything was out of like their realm. And again, like I will never forget, Nick, you and I sitting in Winston-Salem for that Alabama Super Regional when it's 26-11 or whatever the heck it ended up being, but it felt like literally the ball was just every swing of the bat was leaving the yard. Georgia Tech can play that type of game. So it's going to be really fun to watch this team. They're going to be, I mean, if you like offense, watch Georgia Tech baseball because you're going to enjoy that lineup.
Yeah, I saw an interview with Ken Schmidt the other day, and he wasn't like, he was a little bit more serious, and I was like, what the heck? I was all the vibes that Georgia Tech have are unmatched. And I think that's why they'll handle the rat poison really well, because they are just having a blast. Nick?
They bring back Drew Burris, ACC Player of the Year. They bring back the Freshman of the Year. They bring back who I think is going to be Pitcher of the Year. This team also brings in 2 studs from different ACC programs that can hit the ball, bat for average, steal, do it all. They have a good rotation. They have a great relief pitching staff that I think has improved. There should be no reason why this team doesn't make it to Omaha. They have opportunity in front of them with a great, great schedule that no one will question if they can win it. I got this team going to Omaha and making a deep, deep run in Omaha. And I remember, Micah, you brought up a great point. I remember texting you guys when I went to the Tech Stanford series, and I said, this team reminds me of the 23 Wake team, just how loose they are, how much fun they have. Like, I was right next to their dugout, and that was the first time I saw them last year. Like, these guys know how to have fun. They bring back Von Lackey, who's just like a Swiss Army knife, and anything he can do is just great. I got this team making a deep, deep run in Omaha, and I think anything else could be disappointing. But, I mean, Monty, I love what you said. Like, Drew Burris wants to get to Omaha. This is do or die right now. So,
is this our consensus? Like, if we had to say who goes like Louisville was the one that went the furthest last year. Are we consensus preseason saying Georgia Tech is our ACC's last man standing? Are we in at this moment in time, 2 weeks out from the season, week and a half, whatever it is, are they the consensus they are going to be the last team standing in the ACC?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
But we have gone way over our normal limit. This will probably be the longest show. I hope it's the longest one of the preseason.
Lots to talk about.
Lots to talk about, and we've got we got to talk about all our boys and all of our guys. I could be calling as many as 4 different series for Georgia Tech on the radio this year. Looking at Clemson, Florida State, North Carolina, Boston College, potentially there, and then of course the ACC tournament. So really excited about Georgia Tech and getting an opportunity to be around those guys, and hopefully they can make a deep run. But I got nothing else if you guys do, and buzz on. All right. Until then, it just means less.